There's a great confusion. Why the man is doing this, why that. And you're about a third of the way through the film before you realize what it's all about.
And welcome to Cine Pile, a show about substantial and important films. From new releases to those titles off the beaten path, we bring you the newest, greatest, and latest. This is Cine Pile. Let's start the show. And like always, I'm Cooper Carr, and I'm flanked by our amazing host and guest today. And we have
Neil Anderson,
Kyle Montgomery,
Joe Scott.
Who's that last name, guys? That's Joe Scott. That's a big time YouTuber right now that we actually were able to get on this serious podcast now. Now that we have a celebrity Joe, are we legit?
You're getting pretty legit.
We're getting pretty legit.
Yeah,
Nice.
You can't quit now.
Yeah.
According to Hammer.
No, for sure not.
To the illustrious song.
I love it. Well, like always, we get started with our recommendations, and I know, Neil, you're going to be kicking it off, right?
Yeah, so this is a Halloween episode. Our recommendations don't have to do with the episode necessarily, but mine lucked out, and it is a horror. It's called The Wailing. So The Wailing is a South Korean... I don't even want to just say it's a horror film because it's really bizarre. It mixes kind of a lot of different genres, especially a lot of different horror genres, I suppose. But it's a South Korean film that takes place kind of in rural South Korea where people are mysteriously going mad and killing their family members in brutal fashion. So police arrive and an entire family has been stabbed like 40 times. And the sole survivor is in a fetal position just rocking back and forth, talking nonsense to themselves.
Classic.
Like you do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's essentially the setup. We don't know why it's happening, what's happening. Is there something demonic? Is there something...
It almost feels for a little while like it could become a zombie film.
It did, yeah.
That's how bizarre it is. And I think I also don't want to lock it down too much into horror because just like in our Bong Joon-ho, Jong Gun-ho, what was it again?
Bong Joon-ho.
Bong Joon-ho
episode. You can cut that right out.
We're leaving it.
In the Bong Joon-ho episode, we talk about how there's this weird sense of humor that always goes along with it. And I think The Wailing has that as well. Not so much towards the end of the film, but there are definitely some parts that kind of catch you off guard with how funny they are.
Well, just like going to Bong Joon-ho, a lot of those, especially Memories of Murder, it's there's some comedy with the police, and it all takes place in rural South Korea. So now that we've seen like recently several South Korean films that are like in rural South Korea, is this what really it's like in rural South Korea? Because it's super. It's almost worse than you think as far as like redneck in the United States. It's very like it's mysteriously scary. I don't know, and they have like these tropes to them. That's
yes and no.
Yeah,
it reminds me of old westerns.
I could see that.
Towards like you have the fool, the town drunk, and you kind of have the more serious guy who comes in, the sheriff, and yeah, I don't know. It really reminded me. It seemed reminiscent to a western, like kind of looking back at. What's the movie towards Hail Caesar, and they're doing the western, everything like that, and they go through the western tropes of like the strong boy who's a really smart one and everything like that, and then they also have the person who is sitting there like just orchestrating everything, which is like that smart FBI agent who comes into play, and then you have again like the town drunk, the fool that everyone can laugh at. Like I feel like they had that, but on a much more intense, crueler level. But it's South Korea, that's kind of what they do.
Well, the main character
take it
of
to
the movie
11.
is essentially the fool, in a way. Like the police officer whose daughter ends up being the one in jeopardy. He's the fool who then changes his character in the movie to, kind of like step up for his daughter and try to figure out what's happening so she doesn't lose her life, to some demonic, perhaps.
Yeah, that's something we saw in all the other South Korean films.
Yeah, Memories of Murder, for
Memories
sure.
of Murder. Not so much with Mother, but like films like The Host as well.
Yeah, The Host,
the
for
fool is the protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
And in comparison to the redneck Southern depictions, I feel like these films always treat them with a bit of heart.
Sure.
I don't usually see, if you were to depict rednecks in the American South, you're not really supposed to be very sympathetic towards them. At least I hope not. I don't know. Maybe that's just my personal bias coming into play.
Sorry, Civil War. Just kind of the cards that you were
I shouldn't
dealt.
say I hope not, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not usually depicted as somebody you're going to sympathize with.
Yeah, it's usually
no,
the
yeah,
South
for
is
sure.
like magical realism or like hardcore
deliverance.
or deliverance.
It just has this like feeling of like it's outside the realm of like I don't know, the outskirts in like these South Korean films seem like they're untouchable from society, like they're completely distant
Yeah,
from
it
the
feels
rest
like-
of the world in a way.
Almost like a Twilight Zone.
or,
Yeah,
or like a
exactly.
part of a wasteland or something like that, really.
It's not the people that are, you know what I'm saying, it's like the setting that's very
Perhaps it's because it's so foreign to us.
yeah. And well, that's what I'm saying, now that we've seen several like recently,
It
it's
still
like,
has
is
that
that what
feeling.
it's like? Yeah, because that I
There's
don't
only
and,
one
and when
way
they had
for
in
us-
Memories of Murder, they have the detective coming in from Seoul,
Yeah.
who he's definitely like the outsider, you know. He, you know,
I feel like people from Oklahoma would identify really well with it. Because like it's like
Maybe.
desolate landscapes. Like this guy came all the way from Dallas.
Do you have
out in
any
the
experience
Panhandle.
with the movies we're throwing out there, Joe?
Well, y'all all three saw this film recently, right?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
part of the Dallas Asian
it was a
Film Fest.
couple months ago.
So I'm just sitting here quietly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean it's hard to talk about in a way because I need to see it. It's a movie we should see again.
Yeah, it's 3 hours
Because-
long.
Yeah,
There's a lot to
almost
absorb.
3 hours. It's really long, and I'd say it does the length justice just because it keeps you on your toes.
Oh, I would absolutely say it's necessary.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
for
it's like
sure.
you don't know,
100%.
and I don't without giving away the ending, but it's like it does justice. Like it, at least it like treats you, in my opinion, at least at the end.
But Joe, you had an interesting recommendation.
But we're moving on.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's move on.
Okay. Go on to the next one.
Yeah, I'll take it. Sure. So with the election going on right now, this is not Halloween themed, but this election is a bit of a nightmare. This movie's been, I've just been thinking about it a lot lately, and I've been pulling up clips on YouTube and watching them over and over again. That's Network from 1976. But this is just such a media election, I think. This the way, Trump's kind of played the media left, right, and center all the way and taken advantage of their, everything I say is crazy, so therefore it will wind up on TV and they'll play
Yeah.
my name over and over and over again, So the media has just been such a big part of this election that I think back on Network and how much it forecast all this back in 40 years ago. Literally 40 years ago is when it came out. And you guys haven't seen it.
We have
No.
not.
So
I
now,
want
so now
to
I
see
get
it,
to talk
yeah.
and y'all
Nope.
just sit there.
Haven't
Yeah,
seen
exactly.
But
Big Sidney LeMay fan, though.
yeah, well, I guarantee you've seen some clips from this. This is the one where the news guy gets up and he's like, "I'm mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore."
Oh yeah,
It's that movie.
Okay, I've seen that. I think that's probably the only clip I've seen.
It's
But-
the famous one.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can find it, anywhere on YouTube and whatnot. But there's there's other scenes from that movie that are just so brilliant, and I really feel like it should be required viewing. Like my wife is a teacher; she's an English teacher,
Okay.
and I'm always saying like, and I think they do have this. They certainly didn't when I was growing up, but like media classes on media criticism, because I'm going off on a tangent now.
That's fine.
But-
Go for it.
but
No,
once
that's
upon a
fine. They
time-
didn't have it for us. We didn't
Right.
have media
Yeah.
criticism
No, not at all.
classes.
Well, so once upon a time, we only had a handful of media outlets. Like that's what we all got the same news from the same places, and we're all on the same page. Now, you could argue that that's a bad thing because there's only a few people that are controlling all the information and whatnot. But at least we all kind of agreed on what the facts were.
Right.
Right.
Well, now we have your right wing media, and you got your left wing media, and people just don't even have the same facts anymore.
Yeah.
We're so fractured, and it's like I really it's something I think about a lot. It worries me. I don't know how we come together anymore because you literally can't even agree on what's the truth.
Yeah. It's like
Anymore.
of the one thing that should be mass produced, it's kind of the news, so everyone has like a unilateral and also truthful understanding of everything. And then you have like these sub niche kind of groups, like anywhere from Fox News to CNN to then like particular subgroups within it, where it's just like, and it goes into this like muck and mire of what is news, what is editorial, what is editorial calling itself news, and trying to like guise itself as some kind of like source or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what NPR is for.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and plug NPR because I absolutely love it. I feel like the world would be a better place if everybody listened to NPR.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was hoping. The new Vice News hour. What is it called? The Vice News show that's on HBO.
Mhm.
So obviously Vice has the HBO show, and now they have that new show that's 5 days a week. It's like 20, 30 minutes a piece, and it's basically a news show except there's no anchor, so it's not live. And we've watched a couple, and I was hoping it's like, are they trying to be like the bastion of like journalism of like, okay, this has gotten out of control. We have too much segmentation. We have too many areas that don't need to market towards the general masses, so they can say whatever they want. They don't have to say the facts because we're just heading towards the liberals, or we're just heading towards the conservatives or whatever. Yeah. Doesn't look like that's exactly what's happening, sadly. It's good though. I recommend the Vice News, but they have like moments in it where it's like very slanted. It kind of has like they have a spot that they're talking about what happened on the internet like last week or something like that, and it's, I don't know, it's
internet news.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of weird. But that's not it's we kind of went off on a tangent, but
but not really. That's what this movie's about.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in there where you got this character Howard Beale. He's the old guy who flips out and starts going, run to your windows and yell, "I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take this anymore." They give him a show because they're like, "Ooh, this guy's crazy. He's good for ratings."
Yeah.
And so he gets this show, and they call him the Mad Prophet of the airwaves, and he does this whole speech where he talks about how the guy Edward George Ruddy, I don't know why I remember the name, was the owner of this news. I forget the name of it in the movie now, but the News Corporation of America, I think is what they call it. But the main guy, he died, and he's like, and we're in a lot of trouble because now it's owned by the Communications Corporation of America, and when the greatest goddamn propaganda force in the whole godless world is run by a corporation, then who knows what shit will peddle for news on this network. And he goes on and on about how, like, you guys live by the tube, you breathe by the tube, you eat what we say.
Yeah, I have seen that huge monologue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the tube tells you what to wear. The tube tells you what to think. And he's like addressing like a live audience.
Yeah. And he says, like, you're starting to believe that your own lives are unreal and we're the reality, but wake up, you fools! Like we are the illusion, and there's several scenes like that.
I'm getting chills just from you reading that. You're not even reading it. And for all of those listening, he's just reciting this from memory.
I am. Well, I've watched it that many times. It's just such a brilliantly written scene. I just feel like that movie should be required viewing because we all need to have a more critical mind towards the media.
Yeah, I remember we were in the library of my high school, and I was 15. It was my freshman year, and we had this like romantic like Shakespeare guy. Like he was reciting sonnets and everything for us, and he had like a little mandolin and everything like that, and was I wonder where that man is now today, and like how old he was when he was performing for me, probably like my age. And he was like telling me,
and
like,
he seemed so old back then.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like he's like, "You're 24," and he was talking about how what's beautiful, a forest that's growing untamed or a forest that has like a path paved through it. And he was talking about like the differences between romanticism and like classicism and stuff like that. And he started getting into the fact that television is not meant to be content, it's advertising. And he's like you're not watching TV, you're watching advertising is what you're watching, and the only reason they make that is to make advertising possible in so many ways, which I mean it's kind of like one of those like necessary evil kind of things, but since I work in advertising, I'm kind of okay with it. I
also work in advertising.
Yeah. Neil makes commercials at Post Production House. He works at Lucky Post.
Oh, now he's outed.
Yeah, but so Network we should check it out. It's from 1976, and I'm looking it up. Was by Sidney Lumet.
Sidney Lumet.
Lumet. I
This
apologize.
guy
Is it Lumet or Lumet?
It's Lumet.
All right, I'll go.
He's written an incredible book called Making Movies, which for anybody interested in doing that, you should definitely read it. But he has done some incredible films. Probably the most famous being 12 Angry Men.
Yeah.
Not only has he made all the films, but they are tremendous, and he has the best films.
Yeah, so just a couple of them. Serpico, Dog Day Afternoon, The Verdict.
Yeah, just a few.
Network. His very final one before he died was Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, starring Philip Seymour Hoffman. So I'm excited. I'm going to put this on my list.
Well, Network is a movie that has definitely stood up over time. It's more relevant now than it was when he made it.
Yeah, I think
which is amazing.
Yeah, I
Which
think
is
it would become
sad, actually.
yeah.
You wish that weren't the case.
It's like Idiocracy is more relevant now than it was when it was made.
Idiocracy's coming back out in theaters again.
I saw it at the Texas Theater
Yeah.
just like last week.
Oh, really?
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Maybe it's already. I missed it.
Well, they just did like a one-time thing.
Damn. But what is it? Also, I forgot what movie is also coming out. It's like its 20th anniversary. I'll remember it later. But any other closing notes with Network and why we should see it?
You should see it. That's my closing note.
Boom.
Watch it.
Succinct, strong Joe Scott. Kyle, what do you have for us?
I have Fritz Lang's M, which is, I suppose you could call it a thriller, maybe not so much. From 1931, he made it in Germany, and 3 years later, the Nazis banned it. So I just read in the trivia. Interesting little trivia for you there. It's a dark, excellent story about a serial killer who is victimizing children in this, I don't know if you would call it so much a city or a village, but it's this
I'd say it's like
kind
a
of
small city.
Yeah, like a small urban area.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody can figure out who he is, and the cops are so inefficient that even the criminal underground kind of rises up. And there's definitely suspense. It's dark. The cinematography is incredible. Like, there's some one take kind of stuff that we can't even pull off right now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the 30s.
Yeah.
It's like,
1,000-pound camera.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And like pulling panes of glass away so that the camera can fit through the window and
Mm-hmm.
those kind of transitions. But really, I think it's like a morality play. It ends up being more about what justice is. What does it take, and what is a vigilante? How far should we... I mean, there's just so many questions that arise from that. How far should the individuals go? It's different when there's a system of justice
Mm-hmm.
punishing someone as opposed to a mob.
Yeah,
And I think that's the big...
it's a big mob mentality kind of film as
Yeah.
well.
Which you might actually find some parallels to that nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is it pro-mob or anti-mob? I'm assuming anti if the Nazis banned it.
It all depends on whether you support Trump or not.
Yeah. on the viewer
No,
itself,
I'm totally
yeah.
joking about that. But on both sides, you see that kind of mob mentality nowadays.
Mhm.
People are just willing to do different things when they're in a crowd of people who think like them. I would say it's anti-mob, but
Mhm.
it's not insulting enough to make that decision for you. And I think that's what I like about the film. It's intellectually honest in that it's just it's a third person perspective. There's really no point of view for us into the story besides this omniscient storyteller filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
So really you just make up your own mind about what you feel about their decisions. There will probably be mothers out there and people like that who watch the film and they're like, yeah, hunt him down at all costs.
Right.
It's a little different for me watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the dark beauty of the film.
I have not seen it.
Absolute
Dark
classic.
Beauty.
No,
That's
I'm
not,
getting chills.
that sounds like another movie just all on its
Yeah.
own.
Dark Beauty.
I saw
Dark
that on the internet the other
Beauty.
day.
And that was In for Murder by Fritz Lang. What was that?
No,
19.
M for
M.
Murder is the Hitchcock movie. This is just M.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is just M. Sorry.
Just M. And just M. Fritz Lang. He made it after several of his other really famous films,
Mhm.
notably Metropolis,
Ooh.
which apparently it didn't do very well back then. We recognize it as a classic now, but he thought this was kind of his return to the forefront of filmmaking. He wanted to make a hit. So
And
So
he did.
Metropolis was like his failed Star Wars.
yeah,
That didn't quite work, so he went back
Indeed.
to the more experimental stuff.
but that somehow
Not
got
experimental.
taken up years later.
Well, what do you got, Coop?
Well, what I've got is by the Coen brothers, both Ethan and Joel Coen, and like any,
Huh.
imagine that the Coen brothers like to make movies together, and also written by them, as is their typical style as well, is Inside Llewyn Davis, It's a movie that takes place about a folk singer in New York City in like early 1960s. And essentially, on one level, it is about like an artist who is constantly doing that hustle. And even though it's like, it's folk singing in the 1960s when everybody's like wanting, that's when the pop revolution, everything was like getting in full swing. And when disco was kind of going to be underway, when it was like into that free love, kind of like more so like the beginnings of rock, really. Well, like the beginnings of like heavy rock, into heavy rock and so on and so forth. Like it wasn't the taste for anyone yet. And it wasn't the taste until, Kyle, who is the guy who just won the Nobel Peace Prize? And
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan.
It's Bob Dylan, and they reference him.
They reference
the
Bob
movie.
Dylan, yeah.
It wasn't the Nobel Peace Prize. It was the Nobel Prize for poetry.
Literature. Yeah, it was good. It
I
wasn't.
think it's for poetry. Like they don't have a literature. That's
Oh,
poetry.
so I thought it was Nobel Peace, like
No.
PIECE. Like
You
it's
want
the
a piece of
Nobel
the Nobel
Peace.
Prize.
Yeah.
Just
Here's a
piece
quarter of it.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
because that's the only
It's
thing I
just
ever
like half a
heard.
medal.
My gosh, you're always learning. Always
Oh, it is
learning.
For literature. Okay, I thought it was for poetry.
No, it was for literature, and it really called into, what is...
But it was from his music.
Yeah, it was like, what is it saying to where it's like, okay, can can songs now be entered into literature? And people were trying to like, kind of argue and flame a little bit and be like, oh, so Lady Gaga can all of a sudden just win a Nobel Prize?
If she wrote something worthy of it.
Yeah, and they were like, if it's something significant that mirrors an entire generation and acts as a complete like evolving piece and never stays the same and continues to grow as a person grows, and yeah, you can do that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But
Pulitzer, to counter that argument that it's just his music, his book of poetry, Tarantula, won the Pulitzer Prize. So I don't know if I'm sure that was taken into consideration when they gave him that.
Well, do you win? You win for a certain thing.
No, you
don't
can win. Like Hemingway was.
Is it like a career?
given-
Like
So what they do is they kind of like footnotes. They say these are works specifically mentioned, but like with someone like Hemingway, it was given for a body of work. It's usually not given like a best picture for one piece of writing.
okay.
You
You're talking
usually
about Pulitzer or the Nobel?
Nobel.
I know the Nobel's for a body of work, but the Pulitzer's for a specific.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Pulitzer will be for a very specific piece.
Cool.
So it's like a lifetime achievement award.
So that was, we went to Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Because
So there's a movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Apparently, we're talking about a movie. So inside Llewyn Davis, like he's just kind of constantly a screw up and trying to always put together the bricks of his life that are constantly like eroding to where he's like, can I stay over? At your house, can I stay over at your house? And he's homeless essentially, and he just has like this long coat that he keeps with him that's like its own character all in its own right, and and then also like, but he's a really honest guy, and it's like there's a lot more horrible people around him, and so it's very much so a character driven story, which is what I really like. I like character driven stories, and like there's like a little sad bit to where like he has a really fun like sad history to it, and it's Oscar Isaac who's the main guy who plays Llewyn.
boy.
And yeah, Oscar, brother.
Yeah.
There's this movie that Oscar Isaac was in that was like just so bad. What was it called?
It was. I'm not gonna say it was bad. It was just. I'll forget about it.
Yeah,
It's a forgettable movie.
It was forgettable. It was not very Oscar Isaac-esque. Let's just
Well, I
say.
finally
It was
saw Ex Machina
no.
the
What?
other
What?
day.
Oh,
Oh,
Finally sat down and watched that.
excellent movie.
Oh, Ex Machina?
Excellent movie.
Yeah.
Oh, so
And
satisfying.
Oscar Isaac just crushed it.
Yeah. And
He's-
it's a great low budget movie too.
Oh,
It all
yeah.
takes place. There's only three
Like,
characters. It all takes place in
one setting,
yeah.
really.
God, so well done.
Yeah, and he's getting so in depth into like the sci-fi genre. I always find it really interesting when it comes to actors when they're looking at as far as an agency where to place actors, and they're just like, what, Oscar, like you're playing the indie game and everything like that. That's really cool. But what if you were the lead pilot for the new Star Wars, and we're also going to put you as Apocalypse for X-Men, and like all of a sudden he's doing like all these sci-fi things after doing like these low budget, high art, very like boutique kind of projects and everything like that. And the movie we were thinking of was Mojave.
Mojave.
Stay away from Mojave.
I mean, it's a 5.
It's
on
the Anderson,
Anderson scale.
Let's
Yeah.
explain the Anderson scale real quick to Joe as well.
Okay. So when we're rating movies, most people give it like a letter grade, like a high school grades. We're like, oh, that was a 7, and what they really mean is that was bad. Like, oh, a 7's bad. where 10 is good.
Okay.
Well, I like to do a bell curve scale, right? So
Beautiful.
pretty much every
Beautiful.
movie you've ever seen is a 5. Almost all movies you've seen are 5s.
Okay.
So if you're a bad movie, you're closer to a 4, but you still might be, like on the middle between a 4 and a 5. You will never have a 1 and you will never have a 10, pretty much.
Right. Okay.
So Mojave was a 5. That was a perfectly average film.
Yeah.
Forgettable.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's entertaining. You chuckle along and you're slightly engaged, and at the end of it, you're just like, so what's next? Like it doesn't spur any discussion afterwards.
Right.
But more so getting into Inside Llewyn Davis, it also has Justin Timberlake in it as well, who's a fun little character actually in that. He does a really good job acting. And then also the guy, funny enough, who plays the new Darth Vader in the Star Wars films.
Oh.
Driver.
Yeah,
Adam Driver.
and he's like a big, dope military guy.
Wait, the new Darth Vader? Or
Yeah,
Not
Kylo
Vader,
Ren?
but Kylo Ren.
Yeah, Kylo Ren.
Okay, because in Rogue One, Vader is in that.
Yeah. Well, I mean like the new Star Wars, the one that just came out.
Yeah, Kylo Ren.
Sorry, yeah. Kylo Ren.
Not Darth Vader.
I forgot his name. The
You
Vader.
tell how much
The
Cooper cares
Vader
about
the
that.
Vader wannabe. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Rogue One. First Star Wars can eat my butt. Like I don't care.
Eat your butt?
Eat my butt. I was trying to keep it classy. You know, trying to keep this episode a little
14-year-old.
yeah,
That's
you
what.
know, a little PG-13. Eat my ass. But
Oh, great. Now we got to put the E next to the podcast.
But yeah, so inside Llewyn Davis, not only is it a character-driven story, and it's a fun story filled with very many characters, Oscar Isaac is a wonderful singer, like really good singing. The soundtrack to it, it's folksy, it's fun, it's relaxing, it's really good. I love the soundtrack. I have it. Really recommend just the soundtrack to anybody. If you're not going to watch the movie, check out the soundtrack. And just look for, it's also like an existential crisis as well as far as like the entire movie goes. So there's fun like philosophical underpinnings and good little bits about identity and what you kind of push yourself to. And I don't know, it's a very full movie that leaves you very satisfied, that hits all the little points of both humanity and conflict and where you are in life. It's kind of like, I consider like the Garden State of the 1960s in so many ways. It was very like, it was like if Garden State was going to be in the 1960s, it would be this movie of a coming of age acoustic singer who's
So did he play the shins?
no,
Yeah.
the very end.
What do you know what I like about these recommendations?
What's that, Neil?
I haven't seen them. I haven't seen it, actually any of your guys' recommendations. So
Yeah, I don't
Don't
think
worry.
I've seen
Yeah.
really most of anybody else's. I've
besides
seen,
The Wailing.
aside from the Wailing, yeah.
And said the yeah.
I've got really mixed feelings about Llewyn Davis.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's okay. You're a fool.
I think some of the time, just like with Hail Caesar,
Mhm.
I know I'm really entertained while I watch it,
Mm-hmm.
but then I leave the theater, and I know that it's going to take several more viewings for me to see what I need to take from it.
Yeah, it is a repeat offender for sure. That it's something that you should definitely have a second viewing through. Which, I mean, if you guys are going to watch it, I'd love to watch it again, get some more out of it. Great acting, it's just such a solid movie. You wouldn't think it's going to have Joel and Ethan Coen, but
You wouldn't think it's what?
you wouldn't think it's Joel and Ethan Coen though either. Like it's a little different from like their usual style. I think I think it's kind of off-putting towards like it's a slow film. It's cold. It's just like this very evolving kind of, but it's not dark cold.
Okay.
You know,
It is very dark.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's like it's somber and it's stoic, and it has like
depressing.
and it has like this little like heart of warmth to it that only like the
Coen
Coens
brothers.
kind of do so well. But I don't know. Inside Llewyn Davis.
Ember in the darkness.
Yeah, Ember in the Darkness. I'd highly recommend it. Check it out. You can pick it up on Amazon or anything else, or your local Premiere Video on Dallas and on Mockingbird Lane.
Redbox?
Redbox? No, it's too good for Redbox.
Right next to Sharknado 5.
Yeah, and then to go through it once again. So, Joe, you were going to be recommending.
Kind of put him right on the
I know
spot.
that's awful. Yeah. So, Joe, you were going to be recommending
Network.
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 See it.
See it.
Joe Scott.
Ron Swanson.
M from Fritz Lang.
Which is not M for Murder. I'm sorry about
It is
that.
not. I haven't seen that, but I've heard it's classic.
It's very good. I love it. It's a good movie. Which I'm sorry I didn't know that was already Hitchcock. I was like, oh, okay, we're talking about this one. And then Neil, your recommendation,
Yeah, I did The Wailing, the South Korean horror film.
and of course I did Llewyn Davis. And so now we're gonna change tracks a little bit and Halloween's coming around the corner, so how can we not talk about horror films?
Yeah, we gotta talk about what we like in horror, or what movies that, you know, what's a good watch for this time of year.
Yeah, I think that's the big question, right? Because you're flooded with various movies on AMC, all these different channels. But really,
Sci-fi.
what should you watch on this Halloween? I've got a couple personal ones that, I mean, this is one of my favorite times of year. I love
I think
horror films.
this is the one time of year that that it's next to Christmas. I'd say that Halloween is on par with having so many movies like aligned with it. Towards like everyone has their Christmas movie, no one has a Thanksgiving movie really, but everyone has a Halloween movie. You know,
and Christmas movies kind of stink.
Yeah, and Christmas movies kind of suck. So really,
Agreed.
yeah. So
Just like
Halloween
Christmas
movies,
music.
yeah.
Halloween's way more interesting.
I love Halloween.
You're all dead inside.
Well, you're all going to hell. How do you think about that? You like horror movies so much.
It's more honest. Christmas, I feel like they're asking me to buy things. Halloween, sure, it's about selling costumes and candy, but it doesn't cost me anything to sit down and watch these movies that they're just giving us on television.
That's true. Horror films are more honest to Halloween than like Christmas movies are. To where it's like, hey, I got my wings and now I'm an angel. Thanks, Clarence. Now I'm going to run to the store so I can buy shit for my kids.
Damn, Cooper.
Just saying. I mean, there are underpinnings to most Christmas stories and like about getting stuff.
Yeah.
You should
But
do
that's a whole nother.
you could do a Christmas movie set at Halloween
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
with all the Christmas tropes.
Oh, that
I'll
would be
home
great.
for Halloween. Or
Yeah.
this.
Just shows the kid actually blowing his eye out.
I thought you were going
Shooting
somewhere
your eye.
way out.
That one movie. What's the movie
Christmas
where
Story.
Christmas Story?
You
like
shoot your eye
right,
out.
yeah, he
Yeah,
gets the BB
yeah.
gun and he shoots his eye out. Like,
just
you know,
a
the Halloween version would be yeah, probably shouldn't go blowing, but like, you know, him actually shooting his eye out. I think that'd be really good.
I thought you were saying we should like sit down on Halloween and watch a bunch of Christmas films. Like that's what I thought you were going with.
No,
I was like, that's like Jingle All the Way or something, you know, like
Good Christmas film.
excellent
or at least
Christmas film.
it's one of my favorite Christmas films, to be honest.
But what are some of our favorite Halloween films?
Well, you sound like you had one queued up. What do you got?
One of my personal favorites, something I always tried to catch when it was on TV, was the original cut of Army of Darkness.
Nice.
It's so much fun. I remember, and I grew up in the north, so we had an actual autumn as opposed to Texas here. We would always have these incredible changing leaves. It would be legitimately cold, and we would curl up and watch horror films. And that was just one of the all-time pleasures, because you've got this crazy skeleton army, you've got demons, you've got monsters, you've got this badass hero. As a kid, it hit all the notes, all the right notes.
Love it. What was it?
Classic.
Army of Darkness. It's the third in the
Okay.
Evil Dead trilogy, but you really don't need to see any of the others.
Okay.
to
Yeah.
jump
Yeah, it's a
in.
standalone.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now you said the original cut. Were there remakes or redos?
So, I bought the director's cut on DVD many years ago, and I wanted to see this alternative ending that apparently was the original ending for the film, and I just didn't like it nearly as much.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
In the original cut, he returns to the supermarket, and there's this epic, wonderful action scene. I guess not too. It's pretty short. It's like the closer of the film, and I loved that way more than the director's cut ending.
That's usually kind of rare, I feel like, where the director's cut misses the mark on what, like...
Yeah, I don't know what the deal was. I
honestly,
really think
like-
they went with the better ending in the theatrical version.
Yeah, I think one thing surprisingly is like Lord of the Rings. I kind of don't like the director's cut of Fellowship.
You are.
I
crazy.
much prefer the director's.
I think the director's cut. There's some good versions of it of Lord of the Rings, and like the Fellowship. I don't know, the Fellowship. It just like seemed too long. Towards like there was a lot of contact shots and stuff like that, but I just was like, meh. Now the director's cut of Wedding Crashers. Now definitely keep to that. I was raised on that one, and then I went to the theatrical version. Like, what is this? There's no. This is awful. But, Wedding Crashers, movies that matters, guys. This is Cine Pile.
I think you're mixing up director's cut with unrated version,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like
and
Red
then
Band.
the extended cut for Lord of the Rings.
Maybe. I could be right, though.
What else we got?
Yeah.
I've got a whole list of movies here, by the way. Of
Okay.
Halloween recommendations.
Well,
so if
I know that
anybody's floundering-
if we get stale, I'll
okay,
bounce
so
off
one
to
that
you.
we just watched the other night
Yeah.
where we went back to the original, the Blair Witch Project, which after rewatching it, it's really good. It's actually really
Holds
good.
up?
Yeah,
Oh,
it
yeah.
holds up. It's
I'd never
actually-
seen it.
It's actually really solid.
Yeah, I had never seen it either.
Yeah.
I've
I
never
actually saw it
seen
in
the
the
Blair
theater.
Witch until the other day.
Yeah,
Really?
and see, when it came out,
What
they
was
were
like that?
marketing. They
What
were
was that
marketing
like?
it as if it was real.
Okay, so as somebody who works in advertising, I guess a lot of us do in here. The way they marketed that film, I remember, was brilliant.
It was brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. Because they didn't treat it like it was a movie. They treated it like this really happened.
This is found footage.
And this was earlier in the internet when people weren't so jaded, when you could find stuff like that, and it was just like, oh my god, did you hear about this thing? They found this footage, and oh my god, they made a movie out of this, and I gotta go see this. And so like, I went crazy there, but no,
So did everyone else,
I went and
though.
saw it in the theater. I want to say maybe the opening weekend, or it was at a film festival even. It was like early. Sorry, I'm acting like I'm all cool now because I saw it.
Got the early release.
But no, I remember. I do remember at the end of it, just peeing myself, like, oh my god, that's insane. Like at the very end, where they're going down the basement, you just
Yeah.
kind of see her in the corner, and the camera. I'm giving it away, but
That's fine. It's been out for
it's been out
not
for a
a long
while,
time.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
fine.
But no, that's why I was asking, because I saw it early. I saw it in the theater, and I was impressed by it.
Yeah.
But then I
it,
honestly, I have not seen it since then.
it holds up. I mean,
Yeah,
the
it
fact
really
that it
does.
doesn't have the shtick anymore of it being real.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
been
you
done
go-
so many times now, but it was the first one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
for
was.
sure.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting about it too is that you never actually see anything. There's really nothing that you see in it.
No,
It's
just the evidence of
It's
happening.
just evidence, right? It's just like aftermath, and it's just noises. There's some, sound design
And performances.
and performances, exactly. But there, you never see
Not a
the
single
witch
jump scare.
or any sort of like animal, like a beast that could be doing this or anything. I guess the most like disturbing thing you actually see in the whole film is probably the teeth, where you see teeth in a bag of their friend that went
Yeah.
missing. And that's like the evidence. That's like, okay, well, that's the first time we just saw something.
Well, let's
Time to-
leave.
Yeah.
And they try.
So
Yeah.
the remake, or I guess it is a sequel, the Blair Witch, which was directed by what's his name? It's the same guy that did You're Next,
I'll have to look it up.
and The Guest, right? It's I can't remember his name, but yeah, it's actually okay. So I enjoyed it. While watching it, it wasn't. I was thinking like in the middle of the movie, being like, this isn't that good. This isn't that good. But then the last like 20 minutes hit, and it sold it for me. The last 20 minutes were solid. I was
The
like,
pure
okay.
suspense.
Yeah, it was definitely so. Again, they didn't have the shtick
Right.
of it being a real film. This was a Hollywood film. Everyone knew it. You're going into it knowing you're seeing a movie. So it's like a pseudo fake found footage movie. And the found footage part, you don't even care about. They don't really ham that up a little bit. It's all just like an excuse. They actually wear these like Bluetooth earpieces that have a camera attached to them.
Oh, cool. So it's like ghost hunters.
Yeah, so they're basically just like walking around, and then they have like other cameras too. But like when they have like their head cam, basically, it's just because they're their Bluetooth headset. Basically.
Well, yeah, just like the first film, like they cut between the 16 millimeter and then the digicam, so it's kind of like
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, in that one they were like playing up the authenticity of it. This one they're not. They're not playing up. It's really could have been shot with just like a normal camera, and after a while you almost feel like it is.
yeah.
Which is fine. That's what they were going for. But yeah, the last like 20-ish minutes, and it's a jump scare movie, and so a jump scare movie is usually a derogatory term for a film, but it's a well done jump scare movie in my
They
opinion.
do it right.
They do. I think they do. Like
Quality jumps.
in the last like 20 minutes, and I don't get scared during movies, but my blood was
Pumping.
it was pumping. I was like, damn. I'm feeling it right now. I'm feeling it. So I think that's why I liked it, because I hadn't felt that in a while in a movie. So I recommend it.
I was curious how that came out.
His
Yeah.
name is Adam Wingard,
Yep.
and unfortunately, he is doing a remake of I Saw the Devil,
Oh.
which is a really excellent South Korean horror film, a serial killer film.
Mm-hmm.
And they just can't let anything be, can they?
I think they should just
really
leave.
can't.
They should just let the South. I mean, it's like, guys, don't touch Old Boy. What are you doing? Like,
That hurt.
leave Old Boy alone. Like
Leave
that.
it all alone. Let the right one in alone.
Yeah.
Just let it be. Do your own movie.
This is when it gets into the meme. It's like, leave South Korean films alone.
Yeah.
But you can't expect Americans to read.
Yeah. No. I mean,
Well, you know,
honestly, we were in Premiere Video, and like Kyle was like, "Look at this one. Like, this is German." I'm like, "I'm not reading a movie." But
you did actually say that. Like,
yeah, I actually said I'm not
like 4
reading.
days
I said
ago.
I'm not reading a movie. No, also, hey,
You're not always
to
in the
defend, yeah, exactly. To defend myself, I will watch a foreign film, but like when it comes to
We
like
watch a lot of
to
foreign
scary films and stuff like that, like I feel like if I'm reading it, I'm just kind of like, it's gonna take me out. Like
Sometimes
I have
more
to be.
convincing.
No, exactly. The reading sometimes makes the acting substantially better because you automatically assume the acting is good when you're reading it because it's in your head. But you don't actually know what you don't know what they're saying. Like they could be
know what the actual inflection should be.
exactly.
Yeah, you still have to interpret.
It could be
that.
bad, but you're like, that was good. I read it on the screen. It was good.
That was some fine punctuation.
So like, yeah, sometimes like I feel like every South Korean movie I've seen, the acting has been tremendous, but then again, I don't really know. It's hard for me to tell, especially if it's dialogue acting. If it's like silent, it's all expression, then you're like, okay, that was good. But
So there's another recommendation.
What's that?
which one?
The one we just brought up. I Saw the Devil.
Oh, I Saw the Devil. Yeah.
See it before what I'm hoping is a terrible remake. I don't want them to succeed.
Yeah. You wish all the worst on them. Yeah, and then with Neil, because you kind of brought up a little bit more modern one, kind of going to go into the classic scary movie, and classic kind of bad scary, but scared the shit out of me. And honestly, like I think this movie is the quintessential, like something under your bed, and they play into that trope time and time again, and that's Critters. So, Critters is a movie about these furball aliens from outer space with giant mouths that just devour anything and everything. Like that's just what they are. They're just constantly hungry. They're never satiated. They're always like trying to find their next meal or something like that. It is silly in some regards, but it's also an 80s film. So just like how the Freddy Krueger films, the Jason films, any of the 80s action films, they are not shy of blood. They are not shy for violence. They're not shy for like, kind of needless sexual gratuity. So it's just like all of like the classics that make up a horror are there. So it's like, okay, cool. So it may not be like this, accomplishment of great standing of horror, but it's just like, but it's the tales told around the fire. It's like the progenitor of horror film in so many ways.
Well, I haven't seen it, but I'd like to like look at it from like an analysis point of view and be like, so wait, what year was this? Like when was?
It's like the early 80s, I want to say, because
1986.
1986.
Yeah, okay, so like if we go back then and kind of, it's like a snapshot in time, right? Horror films are good at like looking
For sure,
at
yeah.
snapshots in time to be like, what was the collective fear in our society at this time that made this movie possible, right? So like I'd like to see what's actually happening in this movie and be like, oh, this is because there was like a bombing somewhere and like we fear I don't some event happened that like caught the collective conscious of the public.
Yeah, I
And,
mean,
like,
for sure. Like, just the fact that it is aliens coming in, so it's like you could have the fear of foreign threats, the fear of othering, and stuff like that. And I mean, and then it also does support more tropes in that the 1980s was more. I mean, granted, it was like kind of like the before like the 90s grunge kind of happened. It was like considered like this economic time where everyone had a job, everyone had like these great things going on for themselves, and so like I think films had to be so antithetical to that, to where okay, so things are good, so let's show things just horrifically bad, but also because economically it was about excess and excess and excess, and just like Rambo sitting like Sylvester Stallone did not shy away from steroids when he was Rambo, sitting there with like an M50 single arm mowing down a bunch of Vietnamese, and it's just
Rambo's super interesting though.
Rambo is super
because
interesting.
It did not start that way.
No.
First Blood was
first-
the first one.
right.
Yeah, it did not start that way at all. I don't actually know how important Critters was to the 80s. If it was this huge success that
No, I
tapped
doubt
into
it.
something. But as far as Rambo, I would love to see an essay of somebody breaking down how the Rambo series
Changed.
you
Well,
could
yeah, 'cause-
basically follow the change, and it's like
And
America
you'd see
in a way.
how America
Yeah.
changed.
Well, yeah, because the
idea
first
of
one was
America,
about
so-
like the ending bit of Rambo is when he like collapses and starts crying, and like how he can't forget the war, and it's about like the horrors of war and the effect of it. And then you go
And
to
there's very little violence. There's no deaths. right? There might be like 1 or 2 deaths
I've never
or
seen the
something.
first one.
But
Are
he
you talking about the
doesn't
first one?
actively
It's not
kill
a violent.
anybody.
Yeah.
He's not trying to do it. He's just trying to defend himself. He's a Vietnam vet. So that's the only one I've seen, to be honest. I walked out of the newest one. I forget what it was. Was it just called Rambo?
John Rambo?
I don't know.
I don't think I saw the newest one.
It was the newest one. It was hyper violent. I don't have any problem with violence,
Yeah.
but I just don't. I'm not the biggest like action film guy.
The most recent Rambo had it was because I always like to think it's really funny to count the number of deaths in the films, and like there's those death counters and stuff like that.
Like Hot Shots Part 2.
Yeah, like Hot Shots Part 2, towards like more deaths than RoboCop, and it was something like there's like he kills like 300 people in like the last Rambo, and so it does show like a little bit with that, but yeah, with Critters and like how you were saying like, hey, was this like significant within the 80s? It definitely did become its own sequel, and it was like Critters 2, Critters 3, and then the classic Critters in Space.
Critters 4.
I wonder if this was
Nice.
an HIV thing.
Are
they
Or drugs. The
Yeah,
war
were
on
they
drugs was a big
contagious
thing
or
back
something?
then.
Like,
You know what is an HIV thing? John Carpenter's The Thing.
Really?
And we brought this up. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a whole series of, or a whole important suspenseful scene of blood testing in that film.
mm-hmm.
But, disclaimer, do not watch The Thing for Halloween unless you live somewhere where you already have snow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were discussing this earlier,
You
whether
gotta
or not
be-
it's a Halloween movie or not.
It's not. It's a dead of winter movie. It's a snowed in movie where you're
Yeah.
running your television off the generator.
Yeah, unless your power,
Wait,
if
what were
your
you saying?
power
Yeah.
goes on under like, and it's still connected to the grid, you're not allowed to watch The Thing.
You were saying we were going to turn off our heater,
Yeah,
off our
we're
heat in the
gonna-
house,
this-
and just,
In the depths of January or February, we're going to turn off all the heat. We're all going to build like a fort with pillows and blankets and call everybody. Well, maybe not everybody. You don't want too many people.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, put on The Thing. Interesting
Or
note.
The Shining. You're also saying The Shining, similar movie,
Mhm.
or is at least for a setting to watch.
Oh,
Not a
yeah,
Halloween movie.
It's got to be super cold. Kubrick requested that all of the theaters turn their temperature down to a very specific temperature. It was in somewhere in the 60s for screenings of The Shining.
Interesting.
Yeah. It was with little notes, if I'm not mistaken, that would come with the reels.
Oh, that's interesting. It's like Mad Max, like, no air conditioning. Turn on the heater. Lock the doors.
Blow dust into the.
Yeah. Such a good soundtrack. But
Good rendition.
yeah, but I mean overall, and also I can reference Critters because I mean kind of like you, Joe. I don't really seek out horror too much because I have an overactive imagination. Like I'm still fucking scared of Critters. Like legitimately, still kind of scared of Critters. Just like I'm still scared of E.T. and Velociraptors from Jurassic Park.
What about The Ring? You just saw The Ring for the first time
The
like,
Ring,
a month ago.
The Ring honestly was kind of forgettable for me. The Ring did not bother me so much. I told you like I had that one like kind of wig out period in the shower, and the funny thing was when I was in the 7 days like moment, that's the only time it really fucked with my head.
Once you got past the 7 days, I
was like, I'm fine.
You were rational.
Yeah,
again.
I was
You're
like,
I'm
F
good.
that. I was like, that movie's stupid movie. But before that, it was a whole nother story.
So you have a 7-day window after seeing a movie to where you have to
It was
process
just
it.
specifically The Ring
yeah, so
because it
so
deals
in
with
The
you're going
Ring-
to die 7 days
Oh,
after
right,
seeing
yeah.
it.
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So that's why, because like
that
after we
nugget
saw
slipped
it,
out of my head. It's
Yeah,
been a
yeah.
while.
yeah. So after I saw it and everything like that, I remember like there was one time I was taking a shower, and it's just like that stupid kind of feeling that you have. And this is what I love about horror films is like no films really penetrate us as deeply as horror does because fear is such a primal aspect to our nature.
Right.
And I mean like everyone's had that to where you're just sitting there patting off your face and the towel's completely obscuring your vision completely, or like you wash your face and you're about to look into the mirror, and because those tropes are so popular and they're such a common thing because you're vulnerable in the bathroom, it's where you're naked, it's where you're unprepared, it's not where you have any weapons, and so when you look into the mirror you kind of sit there just for a second and you're like, stop being ridiculous. Like, of course there's nothing there. Oh, there's nothing there because it's a vampire. Like, how you're looking into the mirror, you fool. And so, like, that's what I like about horror films. Like,
Well, you want to go to a movie and feel something.
Yeah, no,
you don't
no,
want to go to
for
see
sure.
a movie and not feel anything from it. And fear is, it's a very accessible emotion that can be easily tapped. That's a big reason why I like horror films.
Yeah, for sure. Joe, what was like the first movie that really ever scared you? Because mine was like E.T.
E.T. scared you?
Dude, E.T. scared the shit out of me when E.T. runs out of the
Well, how
bushes
old were you?
and he's like 5, 7.
Okay,
And like
that's why.
like,
That's
you know
why
what?
you're scared.
Well,
Now you just traumatized.
He still
from
fucking
it.
scares me, bro.
Well, it's 'cause you're
He's this
traumatized.
little fat waddly
So-
thing with an extending like neck. He's half like a boner. It's just like blah.
And that scares you?
Just scares
Half
the
a boner?
dude. Yes.
It's the scariest commercial for Reese's Pieces ever made.
Yeah, pretty much. I'd have to say so. Well, I think like they didn't make Alien so likable. Like if we made E.T. now, he would be rounded and very safe looking and everything like that. I think there was kind of a horror element to E.T. Like it was a very like kind of scary movie. Like when Elliot first, shut your mouth. So like when Elliot first meets the interaction with E.T. when he looks into the greenhouse and there's just like a radio playing in the distance and all you can hear is like, you know, the crickets, and there's a field right next to the shed, and out of that shed is like this really hard light and this like chiaroscuro like kind of contrast, and he throws in that ball and the ball gets thrown back out, and it plays with that whole like very similar to the Blair Witch. You don't see anything, but the ball just comes back at you, and you can really see the kind of like you can relate to him as a kid because it's a kid in the situation. And so like and then eventually when he tries to find him and he rushes out at him, he's like and he's doing that. Oh, fuck that. Like you have no idea like how long I would just look into a blank empty dark space expecting just to see like a little stupid red glow in his chest. Still to this day I think of E.T. with like giant teeth. It's like, oh, he plants trees.
I'm sorry.
I have a dark mind.
That's traumatizing.
That's disturbing.
Yeah.
Now, Spielberg is a master of letting your imagination fill in the gaps.
Yeah, he is.
So I'm totally dating myself now. I was alive when E.T. came out, so I remember when it was a big deal.
What?
No. I don't know what that was. No, I remember when it came out, and the funny thing is, it was like the biggest movie ever at the time.
Oh, for sure.
And the scene in it, I'll get back to my original point, but the scene in it that for some reason put a weird fear in me was the where they all got quarantined and the house was like covered with plastic and they had to wear the suits. I don't know. As a kid, something about that just really freaked me out.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, so that was the part that would stick in my mind. But I went back. I mean, it's been a while now, maybe 10 years, 15 years now. I went back and I watched E.T. again. It is such a slow movie.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I haven't seen it in a long
it is
time.
Compared to the way movies are now.
Yeah, it's a slow burn.
Oh my God. I was like falling asleep 30 minutes in.
Mm-hmm. Towards like, okay, first we're going to establishing the characters takes so much longer towards like, you know, they're playing, then the mom comes in, then they chat, then like Drew Barrymore comes in and they start talking for a little while. And it's like, you really sit with the characters in like those older kind of like, you know, kind of like sci-fi films and stuff like that. But I think it's also because sci-fi had that kind of like it wasn't profitable yet. It wasn't proven to be so profitable before like Star Wars really started breaking through, and before like you know something compared to like modern day Star Trek or something like that. Something that they're like, oh yeah, let's generate some profit, or comic book movies now. Towards like, yeah, we're gonna double our money no matter what. Ant-Man, fuck it, no one knows who it is. Let's make it. Oh, triple the money because we put
Kill his parents again.
Yeah, exactly that. And so I don't know, like I think it had some leeway in regard to that, but have you seen anything as of late? I know you're not a big horror fan, but
well, I've been sitting here thinking about like what movie I would talk about, and so okay, something you have to understand about me is I grew up in a really really small town.
Where?
It's south of Wichita Falls.
Okay.
So
what's the address?
It's west of here. It's literally just an address in the middle of nowhere.
I love it.
But so first of all, there wasn't a movie theater in my hometown. So whenever we went to go see a movie, it was like a big family thing.
Oh, it was a big to-do.
It was an event. Yeah. I think me growing up going to see a movie was like somebody growing up here going to Six Flags or something like that. Like it was a big deal. So I don't know what that did to me mentally.
It's a good analogy.
Well, so there was that, and then I was also like super sheltered. My parents wouldn't let me watch anything. Like, okay, so this isn't a horror movie, but The Last Picture Show.
Okay.
Anybody seen The Last Picture Show?
Mm-hmm.
That was actually, some of it was shot in my hometown.
No, really?
Yeah. So most of it was shot in Archer City, which is 15 miles away. So growing up, I was like, I want to see this movie because it was shot in nothing happens in my hometown, and this big movie was shot there. My parents would never let me see it because there was a nude scene. So I was super sheltered. So I wasn't allowed to really watch a lot of horror films. So, you know, I watched a lot of Disney stuff. So like, I still have a soft spot for like The Legend of Ichabod Crane. When you talk about Halloween stuff, I think about that movie It's not scary at all, but it's just like that just has a
Are
soft
you talking
spot in
about
my.
an old animated version?
Yeah, the Walt Disney.
Okay.
I think it was just called The Legend. Well, it's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, but I think it was the Tale of Ichabod Crane is what they called it. I could be wrong.
I
but
actually really enjoyed Tim Burton's version as well.
I think I
Sleepy
prefer the
Hollow?
Disney one.
Yeah, Sleepy Hollow.
Mm-hmm.
I
Back
don't
when he
like
made
that they gave
movies
the
with real
story.
people.
I don't like that they gave a story to the Headless Horseman.
I don't like that they turned into a TV show.
Yeah,
well,
that's
just
weird.
and I had read the book, the Washington Irving book of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, okay, cool.
So there's no backstory. He's not a Hessian or whatever it is in the movie. Like there's no story to the Headless Horseman. He's just like this demonic, pointless, evil figure out there that
Right.
you had to cross a bridge to avoid getting killed by him. Which to me is scarier. It's just like this thing out in the woods. You know? Anyway, so there was that. But the first movie that somehow slipped through my parents' fingers and I got to watch that really scared the crap out of me was Jacob's Ladder.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you seen Jacob's Ladder?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't, but I hear it's...
We referenced
Scary.
it last night. We were watching a terrible, terrible movie, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And Cooper thought he saw a person with no features,
No face, yeah.
just
Yeah.
skin.
Mhm.
I was like, oh. And that immediately brought up Jacob's Ladder in my mind.
Mhm.
And
Turns
how
out it was just out of focus
creepy
shot.
it is. Yeah, it turns out the shot was just out of focus. But
He had a face, he just wasn't in focus. We had to rewind.
Jacob's Ladder, yeah. That's
Yeah.
powerful stuff.
It's a really, really good movie. And of course, as a kid, I was just like, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
But it's well done even today. I think I watched it maybe 5 years ago again. I was still just like, ugh.
It's very much a nightmare.
Yeah, close the
It-
drapes.
Yeah, it would probably be one of in the top 10 films that come closest to being an actual nightmare, I think. That kind of puts you in that
Yeah.
unsettled headspace where
Mhm.
anything can happen, and all of a sudden you're in this room of dark, crazy imagery, and lights are flashing, and nothing's safe.
Mm-hmm.
And things make sense, but then they don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they make sense to a point, and then there's things that just don't make sense anymore, and you
Yeah.
can't figure out what. Yeah.
I would say probably my best introduction, and just kind of like some kind of coming to a close here a little bit. Like I may not be a horror movie person, but I would think the most horror and scared kind of things that still kind of that creep me out a little bit is X-Files, because that was horror film on the weekly. Yeah, as far as like that goes. And I remember I was watching it when I was a contractor and I was working from home with a computer in an apartment that I lived by myself, and I just serial watched that shit, like 9 seasons in like 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it was unhealthy. Did it 3 times in a year.
Oh my god.
He wants to believe.
I know some X-Files shit. Also shot on 16mm too. Really good stuff.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
But yeah, as far as that goes, any quick closing comments or anything as far as horror?
So,
Anything that's jumping out at you?
oh, may I
Yeah.
Yeah.
take over your house? So I know I'm a YouTuber, so I might be partial to this because I spend a lot of time on YouTube. But I have to say, some of the creepiest stuff I have ever watched is on YouTube.
Really? Like what?
Yeah.
And that almost goes back to a little bit of the Blair Witch thing,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like the authenticity of something. Maybe it's like it's not big Hollywood. It's something that's like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Or like r/no
Go
sleep?
ahead, though. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Kind of. So there's this one guy that there's several of them out there, but there's one that I watched called Mr. Nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody listening, go check it out. It's a cool YouTube channel. But he basically takes Reddit stories or creepypasta, whatever you want to call it, and he reads it, and he does it with like footage. He finds footage or whatever, but he animates it and he puts
Yeah.
it to footage, and like he'll do some jump scares every once in a while. Like he'll say, and it's like a person telling a story. It's like, when I was 14, my parents went away, and I was watching this movie, and I heard this knock at the door. It's that kind of thing. And he'll do these sort of jump scares with sound, and like suddenly there's a face in the window and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's just like a guy telling stories really well.
Yeah.
But they're supposedly, what makes it really cool is that they're supposedly real stories that he finds on online.
Oh, okay. Cool. So that's like
so
the shtick of it all.
It is that authenticity, that
Yeah.
realness that you're just kind of like, oh shit,
Mm-hmm.
But there's also just a lot of clips that you can find. I mean, some of them are just like top 5 creepiest videos on YouTube and crap like that. But like, there's one that just always stood out to me. Like, my biggest fear and this isn't very manly of me, is
That's
just,
okay.
it's simply looking out the window and seeing a face staring back at me.
Oh yeah, fuck that.
Just the idea, like,
People
late
are
at
the
night-
scariest monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Late at night, just thinking about looking out the window and seeing a face, like
this, like up
on
against
the
the
window.
glass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
that
that's
confidence too. That confidence of like,
Yeah.
you see my face and I'm not scared because you're gonna die.
Yeah.
And you're just
I
like,
don't even care.
No.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Joe, your monster that scares you and keeps you up at late at night when you're recording YouTube at 2:30.
Jerry Lewis.
Jerry.
So I'm just gonna. This is a total. That's the scariest thing in the world when I was growing up was the Labor Day telethon.
Okay.
The Jerry Lewis Labor Day telethon, because I was a kid and they kept showing all these like videos of these kids with this horrible disease that were disfigured and they did nothing to catch it. It can happen to anyone. It can happen to you, and there's nothing you can do about it. That
geez.
scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
More than anything else, that scared the shit out of me.
That's okay. E.T. scares me, so it's fine. I'm
And
here for
Jerry
you,
Lewis
Joe.
is just
It's
a little
okay.
scary, so.
Legitimate fear.
I like it.
If we could, before we go,
Mm-hmm.
I want to just throw out a couple more titles. If you're
Sure,
looking
yeah,
for things
shoot.
to watch
Some
over
other good
Halloween.
And we can
recommendations
also
for
just
Halloween.
put those on.
Yeah, and check out the info tab as well. List them out.
We've got. I already went over Army of Darkness, the original Omen,
Mm-hmm.
Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight,
Ooh,
Hellraiser,
Mm-hmm.
and Reanimator.
love
Those
it.
are all
Creep Show as well.
worth
Add
your
Creep
time.
Show.
Ooh, Creep Show.
And Critters 1, 2, 3, and Critters from Space.
Killer
You
Clowns
can
from Outer
skip
Space?
those last
Oh yeah,
ones.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space as well. But you know, like always, guys, I've been Cooper Carr,
Neil Anderson.
Kyle Montgomery.
And I'm Joe Scott. Thanks for having me.
and thanks so much, Joe Scott, for coming in. Really appreciate you coming
Thanks,
in.
Joe.
Everyone, check out his YouTube channel. Is it Ask Joe?
It's Answers with Joe.
Answers with Joe.
Once upon a time, it was Ask Joe.
It was okay. I wasn't sure about that one. So check out Answers with Joe, and thank you again, Joe, for coming out and talking
it's been
about
fun.
scary, creepy things that go bump in the night. Be careful, everybody.